How you doing there, folks? Danny Boy and Jeb here, along with Paul Elam. We're going to do a little report on day 4 at Queen's Park. We had a grand day. It was an awesome day. Paul, welcome. Welcome to the show, sir.
Glad to be here.
Always a pleasure. Even though it's on my channel, you should be asking the questions.
Well, yeah, I'll be happy to ask the questions, Dan. The first one I'm going to ask is, how the hell are you?
I'm doing really good, actually. Lots of people are coming by, and they're literally like, I'm so surprised they're coming up and you know, hey, I heard about it, and you know, and they're coming up, and sorry, I got to hang up on that one there. They're coming out of the woodwork and throwing support behind me, and it's really amazing, and that gives me more strength. Okay, obviously I don't have the nutrition there, but you'd be surprised what, you know, just sheer willpower can do.
Yeah, well, when it comes to you, I'm never surprised what willpower can do. You continue to shock and amaze at all turns. Have there been any media yet come by to speak with you?
Not yet, but they're there, and of course, when they're there, I'm documenting it, shaming them. I got the CBC again today, City TV, CP24. You know, hey, if you're going to ignore male suicides, guess what? You're going to get known for that.
Yeah, and we will make it public right here that we know for a fact that a CBC reporter was approached and that he said he was interested in covering this. I think we'll be finding out within 24 hours whether or not that he was serious or whether or not he was full of hot air. I'm still going to repeat the challenge to publications that have been more sane and friendly toward these issues of men's human rights, like National Post and like Sun News. Get on this, folks. You've got this going on right at your feet, and this is news. So it's time to start covering it.
It comes down to ignore male suicides at your peril. It really does. Okay, and the internet never forgets, and it is relentless, and I have no control over it.
No. Well, let's talk again one more time. Let's get the message out there, Dan, and we need to repeat this. This may be the first hangout that some people, because obviously since people are coming up to you, and I know my emails have increased, more and more people are aware of this. I'm still getting emails from people telling me that I should tell you to stop this. Let me make it public right here. Dan Perrins doesn't take orders from me or anyone else. He's a grown man. He's of sound mind. He's making, in my opinion, rational decisions. It's not something I would do, but it's not. I'm just not Dan's boss, and I'm sure he'll be happy to tell you that. We'll go with that. This is happening. Dan's chosen to do this, but let's remind him, Danny, why you're doing this. What is it that you want from the Canadian government in order to stop this hunger strike?
There is two things that are my two demands are that shelters, along with the services that are provided for women, be provided for men. Now, this is in agreement with the Constitution of Canada, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and equality is so important in that document. It's listed 3 times. On the preamble, Canada is a nation built upon the supremacy of God and the rule of law. Now, I know atheists out there, you know, no God, sort of deal, don't believe in God, but I'm pretty sure they believe in the rule of law. And the second part of that, or the second mention of it, comes under Section 15, which is equal services representation. And under Section 28, it says, again, no discrimination between sexes. So it was so important in that constitutional document that it was listed 3 times. And, you know, it's been my experience numerous times over that they ain't paying attention to that. Okay. And it's putting men in their graves. It darn near put me in my grave because they helped an abuser wipe my future away from me. Okay. And they basically scoffed at me and said, suck it up. We don't intend to enforce the law. February 3rd, 2009, about 7:15. That was said by the desk sergeant. Can still picture his face. He had a cheesy ass mustache going on. And I remember that vividly. All right. And the second one is that Section 300 of the Criminal Code of Canada be upheld, and that is about defamatory libel, defamation of character, right? So basically, that says if you put stuff out there that you know is false, with the intention, or to harm an individual's reputation or direct animosity towards them, then you've committed a crime. Okay, I'm a firm believer in free speech, but I'm also a firm believer in responsibility for said free speech.
Okay. Absolutely. And I need to clarify something, Danny, from yesterday when we had our hangout together on this. I might have framed my interpretation of what you were saying the wrong way, and I want to make sure I get that clear now. Dan Perrins is not doing this just to clear up the libel and the multiple libels that have been committed against him. He's doing this for all of us in the men's movement. He wants that charter, that part of Canadian law, upheld for all people involved in the men's human rights movement and beyond. He wants the law upheld equally for everybody, which is the only, of course, sane way to approach this. So if I gave the impression that Danny was doing this just to clear his name, that was my bad, my mistake, absolutely incorrect. Dan's doing this for all of us, not just himself. So if I got that wrong, you have my apologies, Dan.
Absolutely, Paul. Where that comes from, and it was I always had it instilled in me. But I remember a video by Terrence Popp where he mentions that a good soldier clears the path for the ones coming behind them. Okay, and I'm a firm believer in that. And I always say that we may not agree where they are sent, but they guard the home front. Those servicemen, they guard the home front, and it's up to us to keep that home fires protected for them, protect their rights at home. All right, I don't care whether you agree where the powers that be send those personnel, but my God, we best protect them at home. Okay, so I'm a firm believer in that. And yes, it is for everybody else behind me and everybody else in the thick of things. Okay, because they are nasty, and they keep on being nasty about things, right?
Well, they're not only being nasty, but according to Canadian law, they're being criminal.
Yes,
that's a criminal violation to libel somebody when you know that you're lying. And that's what, as far as I can read the law, that's what it's saying. And I know that people like Jeff Charlotte knew he was lying. I know that Adam Serwer knew he was lying. I know that Sharp Magazine, that the publishers there knew they were telling lies. I've seen it in Maclean's and other Canadian publications. They lie regularly, just like they do here in American media. In America, the rules are different. I mean, you can pretty much in America, it's very difficult to prove libel. It's very difficult to even charge somebody with it, and it has to be a civil matter. But in Canada, it is a criminal matter. There is laws against this, which these people have violated, and they have persecuted a lot of people while violating those laws, not just Dan, but I think especially Dan in some ways. I think he's been extra targeted, and that's just opinion.
Yeah. Well, I would like to point out that I gave Sharp Magazine the opportunity to correct their mistake, and they refused to. Okay, I gave them an opportunity. I was like, okay, hey, you made a mistake here. You should correct it, but they refused to. So, all right, fine. We go to the law. That's it. I'm so sorry about your luck. Hopefully, your business goes bankrupt, because really, journalism isn't about lying. It's about telling the truth. All right,
well, it used to be.
Facts.
Let me ask you something about that, Dan. Do you think that places like Sharp Magazine, Maclean's, others are counting on that desk sergeant with the cheesy mustache that's willing to sit there and look you in the eye and say, we have no intention of enforcing the law?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They're betting on it, and they've gotten away with it for so long. And then, somebody like me comes along, a human with a spine. And why I say human, because there are many women within the movement who are doing the same thing I'm doing, and they go through the same grief that we guys go through, because they're simply saying that men matter. Look what happened to the Calgary Expo there, the Honey Badgers.
Yep.
A diverse group of individuals, and they still got they got lied about and libeled and stuff like that, and a deplorable situation. So yeah, I'd also like to touch upon the mental illness thing there. Go ahead. I'm willing to go and talk to a shrink. Not a problem. If they can say that I'm insane for doing, and if they can say I'm insane, well, I don't know. I doubt it, but because I do see a shrink for post-traumatic stress disorder about once a month. Now, I do not take pills for it. It's cognitive behavioral therapy, which is basically exposing yourself to that stuff that screwed you up in the first place in little increments, so that you reacclimatize yourself to that situation and are not as you don't have the flashbacks. But I still get the flashbacks. There are times where I have to, I wake up in the middle of the night panting, and I have to reach out to the wall and make sure that I'm not still on, in jail there, where they, were telling, accused murderers and armed robbers that I was a rat. And I still, even and I flinch when I see a police officer. I freely admit, they make me nervous, because it's quite the experience to have a cop put his hand on his gun and say, "I will effing kill you myself," and with animosity in his eyes, and get right in your face and say it.
Oh my, good grief. Dan, I got to ask you, and I know that, I'm sure that you are probably the first human being in history that has ever started a hunger strike with a 75-mile walk. I don't think that's ever been precedented in human history before. And I can see it on you. Already the cheeks are a little bit sunken, the eye sockets, everything. Yeah. Now, and I'm sure that part of that, because I know you dropped some weight during the walk. There's no way that anybody walks that far without dropping a few pounds. But now you're on your 4th day with no food following that. Are you taking vitamins?
A little bit of vitamin C, keep my immune system up a little bit. I'm getting lots of vitamin D. The sun is shining.
So you're taking.
I should probably take a multivitamin. I agree. I don't want to end up in the grave. But again, what makes those three male lives that were lost today to suicide? What makes my life any more important? What makes the 8 men who killed themselves across Canada, their lives, what makes their lives any less important? There should be no distinction between which human life is worth more than the other.
No, there shouldn't. And we feel it only fair to point out here that now, with Dan on day 4, we're talking about in Ontario alone, by the statistics, by what the statistics tells us, that 12 men have suicided since Dan started his hunger strike. 12.
Well, so this is the hunger strike. Now let's add another 4 or 5 days, because I was traveling May 4th there. So we're getting pretty soon we'll be hitting double digits.
Yes.
Triple digits. In the hundreds. It won't take long. It doesn't take long, and it's such a deplorable situation. And I'm sitting out there in Queen's Park, and the politicians are just walking by like, "Please go away. I want to ignore you. I might be a small guy, but I'm pretty much the biggest elephant in the room there."
Well, and that's a good thing. They need an elephant. They need an elephant in the room with diarrhea in order to get their attention. And I have no sympathy. You public officials that are walking past Danny just wishing he would go away, shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on you. You should not be representing your citizens.
Vote them out of office. If they're willing to turn a blind eye to male suicides, they're willing to turn a blind eye to half of humanity. Get rid of them. Vote them out of office.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. It's just what we're doing. One of the things that I imagined but couldn't contemplate fully, Danny, was just how much this hunger strike would put on display the depraved indifference of your government, the officials of your government, who should have been there to visit you by now, who should have been checking on you, who should have been looking into your allegations of what's been going on and looking into your demands.
Hold on, they kind of are. They kind of are. The most honorable and respectable constables there. We have agreement. We have a back and forth, and it's honorable and it's respectful as it should be. And they have to remain neutral. But again, I will always say, as far as my dealings with them so far, they have always been honorable and respectful.
Oh, I'm not talking about them. I know that they've been very decent to you, and that is very much appreciated. I'm talking more specifically about people like Premier Wynn. That's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. How can she remain silent on this?
I have no idea. I would love to talk to her. Perhaps, you know what? Maybe we'll invite her to the Google Hangout tomorrow night. Open invite there, Premier Wynn. We want to come on the Google Hangout. You don't have to speak to me in person. How about we do it over the internet? Open invite. How about my local politician in Dundas, Ontario? How about that one? Open invite. Come on, talk to me. I'm here. I'm not afraid. Why are you afraid? Why are you acting like cowards? Why are you acting dishonorably?
There may be a long spell of silence after that question, but I can promise you we're going to be filling that void with more coverage of Dan, more attention to this. You will find this embedded later. We want to make sure everybody sees this. You will find this embedded later from Dan's channel. By the way, give him a subscribe hit when you see this. Go in there and subscribe to Dan. You want to see what men's human rights activism looks like? Just look back through Dan's videos and see what he does, and read back through Dan's story at A Voice for Men, all of his articles, his news pieces, what he's done to bring attention to these problems. He's worked like Earl Silverman, and now he's going to force people in the public to pay attention one way or the other. So we want to save Danny. This is not, I'm going to say this like it is. This isn't just I stand with Dan. That's a hashtag you should follow. We should have a hashtag of Save Dan, because he is putting himself at real risk here. And listen,
I stand with Dan because Dan stands for us.
Yes, but listen, I know this guy, folks. I've known him for years. He's not playing. This is not a joke. This is a real flesh and blood human being who's been traumatized by the system in Canada, and who has been advocating for men thinking of others before himself for years, and now he's literally starving. This is not a joke. We need to save this guy. That means you out there, you need to write your government officials. You need to contact them. You need to contact the media and tell them to start covering this. Because if they don't hear from people, they might just let him starve to death on the steps and then pretend he was never here.
Yeah, I'm planning to hook up with a lawyer to get a DNR put up. Yeah, you know what? Really, if I can't make this world a better place, then yeah, well, see us later, right? If that's the decision they make, because it is their decision, okay? And I believe that there is some possibly some case law and whatnot that it really ends up being kind of a quasi-murder kind of situation. I would have to look into the law a little bit more on that, but I don't really care. My goal is set on changing things for the better. Positive change. We need to change this. And I firmly believe that the shelter, we need the shelter services and the shelter abused men's shelters to be there to avoid men from putting themselves in the grave. I know that it damn near put me in the grave. We know that it has put other men into the grave. We hear the stories, and I hate them. I hate the stories, and it's gut wrenching to me to hear these stories, and I just think, it's unacceptable, and especially when it happens to our servicemen. My God, those are the ones that are protecting us. And again, I'll put back. You may not agree with where they're being sent, but you know what? They are our protection. They're the first responders. So yeah, it just can't continue. Now I'm going to point out that Bobby Sands changed how Irish political prisoners were changed this way. He did lose his life, but he did end up changing it. I believe Gandhi also engaged in these sort of tactics to promote change. And so that was, I'm just kind of following other great individuals' work and tactics that they have used to, promote positive change. That's all I'm doing. So if they're going to call me crazy, well, then I guess Bobby Sands was, and I guess Gandhi was.
Well, and I think it's only fair to point out, and this is what's going to be told about Canadian governance, and Canadian society before it's over, that Bobby Sands and Gandhi both had an impact. Gandhi was able to stop nationwide riots with a hunger strike until they brought peace to the land. But here's the deal. These were done in circumstances where there was a shred of human decency in the culture to be had. There's no way that Bobby Sands would have been effective had there not been a cultural reaction to what happened that pressured the government to make changes. The same thing with Gandhi. It was the decency of people that did not want him to die on this hunger strike that they finally relented and stopped rioting. We're going to find out if that even exists in Canada anymore.
Well, don't forget, this was back in the days before feminism split the sexes and created the gender war.
Yes, that's true. This is pre-feminism, so this is going to be an unfortunate, perhaps a necessary evil of a litmus test to find out where society is now on men. Have we sunken so low? Are we so depraved about men and boys now that it just doesn't matter what Dan Perrins does? Well, it matters to me.
There's something I'd like to bring out. Now, I tweeted this at Premier Wynne. I said, you're a feminist, and feminism is supposed to be for everybody. Okay, well, put your money where your mouth is. And I remember, about 2.5 years ago, some screaming redheaded harpy feminists saying, we're working on it, fuckface. Well, I'm here. Where the hell are you people? You're a bunch of liars and hypocrites if you don't show up.
These are people, I'm afraid, Dan, that are sitting here rooting for you to die. Sure. All this shut up fuckface and we're working on it, we're covering men's issues, which we all know is utter bullshit, are people, feminists, I believe, of that ilk especially, are sitting here hoping that you die and that nobody notices, because that's what they've been about all along.
Well, look at my Twitter feed. They're saying that Jeb got, taken away from me. I'm like, really? Here's a picture of him sitting right beside me. They're saying, they're throwing everything they can at me. What they don't realize is that they can't harm me that way. Okay, they really can't. I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. I'm on the government paycheck, right? I get a disability check. So they can't, all they're doing is like making sure that I stay on the government paycheck, which means that, hey, I'm getting paid to keep the government honest and expose feminist liars. So you don't have at it. You're just making me stronger, giving me more time to, expose your bullshit.
I don't know, folks. He sounds sane to me. He sounds rational. This is a plan with an agenda. He's not talking about people coming out of trees talking to him, or the devil is telling him to starve himself. He has an agenda here to bring attention to the problems faced by men and boys, to the Canadian government, and the problems in the media that need to come attention to the people, to the attention of the people. These folks need to be prosecuted. He has exhausted. He tried to get them to change it. He tried to work with the government on what happened when his future was undermined and compromised. And what he gets is we have no intention of enforcing the law. And so now he is taking what I believe to Dan Perrins is the next rational step. You may not agree with it, and I've even got mixed feelings myself. But if you're going to make an argument that this man is emotionally disturbed and making irrational decisions, I'm afraid it falls flat like a brick. It's not an argument to be had here. The problems are what Dan is saying they are. The problems are not Dan. The problems is that the Canadian government allows the media to lie with impunity about people with whom it disagrees. The problem is that $143 million a year is expended on women's shelters in the province of Ontario alone, and there's exactly jack for men who have been through domestic abuse. The
Jack
men,
Shovel, here, hurry up and get in the grave.
which they did to Earl Silverman, and he unfortunately obliged them by hanging himself. And this again, and I'm not casting dispersions on Earl. I strongly disagree with what Earl did. I strongly disagree. I wish there would have been another way for him.
You know what? Let me build upon that. That is the very reason why I've done the hunger strike, because Earl made the wrong choice, and I love him dearly, but he made the wrong choice. Okay, so I'm trying to prevent the suicides. Okay, and I'm giving them time, and I'm giving them options to get me off the hunger strike. They can save my life very, very easily. Okay, everything that I've asked for is covered in the Constitution of Canada. So that uphold your oath to the Constitution of Canada. And there's something else I'd like to build upon there, Paul. I am disturbed. I'm deeply disturbed at how we treat half the human race.
I was not planning on mentioning this before, but I will. I have it on good authority. You can choose to take my word for this or not. It matters not to me. But I happen to know from a very good source that the day before Earl Silverman committed suicide, that he was on a forum on the internet with other providers of DV services, all the feminists, trying to make his case, and that he was mocked and ridiculed. That was his last exchange. He was told he didn't belong there. He was told all he does is hate women. He doesn't want to help men, even though he'd been scratching and clawing and doing research and had volumes of stuff and had dedicated everything in his life to helping men in those situations. He was mocked and ridiculed because these ideologues don't want to see men receive 1 cent of their precious pocket money that they get from the Canadian government. And the day after that incident, where he was mocked and ridiculed by providers of domestic violence services in Canada, Earl Silverman took his life. I wish he was here. I disagreed with his decision. I have a feeling if he had rethought this and decided to stay alive, he would be sitting next to Danny in front of that building right now on strike, making a much bigger impact that his unfortunate suicide did. But I think Danny's spot on correct. Earl chose the wrong path. I understand why he did it, and he's a man that I will never dishonor in his memory. But I think he chose the wrong path, and if anything has hope of reaching, if there's any shred of decency going on in Canada right now, Dan Perrins is a man that's going to reach that if it's doable. This is the way.
Hey, let the feminists be known by their actions. This is, like you said, the litmus test. Here's a man, very, very pacifist protest here. I walked 75 miles. I was met with depraved indifference from some of the government officials. And when that last night that I had to walk through, there was a couple of things that the police that I interacted with that day, God bless them, awesome, honorable individuals. But there was a couple other things that popped in, and it just really disgusted me. And it was like, you know what, it's got to go this way. And it was I know that I mentioned in a video with Jeff there that I had a big surprise. Well, the big surprise was supposed to be me with a bullhorn, but it ended up being, when I got here, I'm like, as I rolled, went through the past 4 days or so, I'm thinking, I don't think it's enough. I really don't. And I'm here. The opportunity is here, and also it was, also how they were. It was also engaged on how they were going to receive me at Queen's Park, and when I was met with a little bit of pushback, that's when it was like, yep, my mind is made up for sure.
I'm glad to hear that, Dan, and I agree with you. It's not enough. And you know something? If the side of Dan Perrins out there is not enough, then how will a bullhorn help?
Paul, I have to cut it short. I'm so sorry. Like I said, people are coming up, and the growing support is awesome, and keep it up. I'm going to point out a couple things. the cretins, the idiots that are attacking me on Twitter, all I ask you to do is retweet them. Expose their bigotry, expose their hatred, expose their hypocrisy. And I'm going to point back to Big Red. That's all we did. And we just let society judge them. That's all we need to do is let's just point out their horse crap and let society judge them. Okay. And, and I suspect that they are going to get more and more desperate, make more and more grandiose lies and claims. And again, just document it. And if it's something heinously illegal, include the police, Toronto police in the tweet, or your local police, or the FBI, or the RCMP, okay? Include them in the tweet. Document it, send it to them, okay? Put these people on trial in the public's eye, and hopefully in the criminal courts too, okay? Let them be known by their actions and their words, okay? That's all we need to do. Be peaceful. I'm peaceful, okay? Don't let your emotions ruin the good work we can do, okay? And I understand the frustration more than others. Again, I lost my brother to suicide. I know, damn, the court system and the injustice damn near put me in the ground. Suck it up. We don't intend to enforce the law. Just a member of the bench there said, I don't give a damn what the Charter of Rights and Freedom says, the highest law on the land. And by the way, at that point in time, there's a whole bunch of lawyers, finding interest in my case. And as soon as that justice said, justice of the peace there, it's a lower court because I was going for bail. As soon as the justice of the peace said that, those lawyers ran from the courtroom because they are officers of the court and they are honor bound to report that crime, but they didn't. Okay. So this is why, I'm all that stuff just build up to it. And it's like, it's got to go this way. This is the only way that I can see it happening. We've made videos, letters, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We have called from the highest mount, and it met deaf ears. And on that note, Paul, do you have anything further you'd like to add or say?
Yeah, just real quickly, Dan. One, thanks for talking to me again. I'm looking forward to talking to you tomorrow. Two things, folks. This video will be embedded at A Voice for Men. It's also on Dan's channel. Please tweet it. And also, if you would honor Dan's request, when you see these scurrilous, scummy people out there mocking Dan as he's in the middle of a hunger strike, please retweet and favorite them. Retweet them over and over and over again. They are the best advertising for the problem that we could possibly have. It is really important to get their word out there, because if you retweet them enough, eventually some actual human beings will see it and will know what they're about, and they'll find out what Dan's about. And with that, I'm good, Dan, and I look forward to talking to you tomorrow.
Thanks for joining me, Paul. I understand that we may possibly have a special guest tomorrow. I'm looking forward to that, possibly. I'm going to point out Anti-Misandry. That's where I'm at now, guys. Folks, come by, join us there. I know I'm a little bit away from them right now, but I'm still trying to work on that. But I got a lot of other things on my plate. I'm going to put out that there is a gentleman at Anti-Misandry that could use a little bit of help so that him and his daughter can be reunited. Okay, help him out. Okay, I will be fine. Okay, please. Peace, folks. Paul, thanks again, sir. Bye for now.
Thank you, brother. Take care.